challenge for a young player transitioning from, say, the academy or the junior ranks into the senior first team?
Look, I think understanding that, getting to first team level is not the destination. I think sometimes, they, particularly players who have undoubted talent and have come through as always being one that people highlight, they get to first team and sometimes they think, oh, that's it, I've made it. And what we know is that that's not the case, because, for every sort of Yamal who's 17, there's probably 100 who debuted at 17 who don't, so there's a cautionary tale there about just because you make it as a young player at a young age and you start well. So I think that's the biggest pitfall, not just for the player themselves, but for everyone around him, whether that's the club, his network of people, to say, well, okay, getting to that level is great, but it's not that unique. It's about, that's the beginning of the journey. And I think, players who understand that, or young people understand and have the right sort of network around them, have a better chance of being successful in the long run.
Is it harder now for young players when you think of social media and phones? When I think back to Ferguson when he had Ryan Giggs and Moyes had Rooney 20 years ago. Is it harder for managers and players because, touch of a button, they get abuse on the phone or they get praise?
Yeah, absolutely. But again, we've got to, guys of our vintage, mate, without casting aspersions on your own age, they're growing up in a different world. I think they're a little bit more aware of it than we are. Like if it was me for my kids, I'd certainly be frightened about it. But, hopefully young people are getting educated along the way. They've probably seen others and understand that, like I said, the people around them are really important. Clubs are more aware of these kind of issues that potentially could happen. But again, it is, whether it's today or 20 years ago, there's always those pitfalls of, that are potentially there. But like I said, I can only speak obviously about Mikey and from what I've seen, he's, I think he's well equipped to handle sort of whatever challenges there are there.
Would you say he's the one who stands out for you as from that crop in the academy, or are there other players that you think are likely to be in the same kind of way?
Again, you're always, because again, players develop sort of differently, so you kind of always try and keep an open mind. There was no doubt that when we brought Mikey up last year, he was still 16. Like I said, he'd had a couple of injuries, but the couple of times he played in the 21s, he kind of stood out. And Simon Davies and the guys in the academy were really strong about him and his potential. So, and then you look at them when they train and how do they train? What's kind of their behaviour like? What's their sort of mindset like? And he just came into it and fit in straight away. So that was the first thing you kind of notice. You think, okay, well, because ultimately you want to expose young players to our training environment, but you don't want to detract from our training environment either. Are they coping? Are they contributing? And he settled in really well, whereas others you think, well, they probably need a little bit more time before we bring him, integrate him in, and then and certainly through pre-season he was always a standout for us. So, but I think there's others in there. There's some young boys in there who are starting to, make some inroads. Some a bit younger, around the 15, 16 age group as well, which is exciting for the club. It's important for us as a club, I think, having that pipeline. Means that hopefully if you go through a successful period, that it's more sustainable when you've got players within the club coming through rather than always seeking outside to try and get talented players in.
What's your plan for him? Is the challenge genuinely for him to try and force his way in and become something of a regular, or is it way too early to...
Look, I mean, again, I just keep an open mind about it. I think the most important role I've got is to keep my observation attributes on high alert with him to sense, what the next step is, rather than sort of get caught up too much in whether it's positive or negative in that sense. Just keep watching Mikey. He'll be the best guide of that.
And the Neymar thing is fun, but is there anyone that you're reminded of when you see him watching?
Mikey more, mate.
Done.
So, sorry, same topic. Could he replace, or not replace Sonny, could he play Sonny's place on Sunday?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, obviously, you know, he's one of the options. Again, you know, 2 games in a week. We've got to, because again, probably the biggest concern I have for him is physically more than anything else. You know, he's obviously still a growing kid, so his body's still adjusting to this level. So, you know, to ask him to play 2 games within a short space of time, I'd be cautious about that. But you know, we'll have a look at sort of how the team shapes up.
And on the Neymar thing, it reminded me of when Postecoglou compared Marcus Edwards to Leo Messi, and he said later, I regretted doing that. I mean, what gives you the confidence that you talked about maturity? Can you kind of give us an example of?
Just to be clear, I didn't call Mikey a Neymar, right? So just to be absolutely, yeah. Well, we'll address it with my captain then. No, look, like I said, I think you'll find that, you know, my demeanour around Mikey would be the same today as it was yesterday, and I think that's what he'd expect. But you know, like I say, your best indicator is the player himself or the person himself, and I've got a feeling that won't affect Mikey. I don't think we'll see him sort of, you know, arriving with a different colour hair or Ferrari. Well, he can't drive, can he? So, you know, so I think he'll be fine.
And I wondered, have you had any clarity on Rodrigo Bentancur and a potential ban? And is that something you're preparing for?
No. I mean, I think that process is kind of ongoing, and like I said, from our perspective, my perspective, I'll just deal with the outcome of that.
And we'll finish with George, please.
I remember last year there was a stage where you sort of asked you every week, would you put your arm around the shoulder of a player, and sort of said it's not really your style, but I wonder with TIMO, would you kind of make an exception after last night and the kind of tough run he's going through, just to kind of try and build his confidence up?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things there. One is, you know, it doesn't mean we don't, you know, I'm not totally sort of cold and callous in these situations. I mean, we're talking to TIMO constantly, and we have, not just me, coaching staff. We understand that he's like lacking some real sort of confidence at the moment. So everyone's been working hard at that. But again, with all these things, I think ultimately, you know, it's incumbent on him to kind of try and use as much of the support he's got around here to get himself out of it. And you know, our role in that is to provide that support, whether that's internally, externally, whatever he needs. And then, you know, like I said, the onus is then on him to try and use that to, you know, to get him back to the levels, you know, he wants to be and where he can contribute for us. But, you know, it's, like I said, with all the players, what we try and do is provide an environment where, should they need help, it's readily available.
How sort of pleased are you with what he's doing here, I guess? And even in the games, it feels like until he gets in the box, he's doing a lot of the right things, and things that you sort of wanted of him last season as well.
Yeah, look, he is, but at the same time, we do need output from our wingers. I mean, that's the key part. I mean, it's kind of, I thought the difference last night was that, you know, when Mikey was on with Brennan, we were a real threat on both wings, and we were getting outcomes from it. You know, it wasn't, you know, we didn't score, but I think, you know, 3 or 4 really good chances came from it, and you need that to happen with the way we play. So, yeah, whilst the general play is important, and with TIMO, you know, he's done well. You know, we still need more sort of in that front third, and I think we got it in the second half.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks.